Hello and welcome to Focus 54, your real guide to African voices. I'm your host, Prudence Mutimbanyoka. Today we appreciate World Environmental Day, exploring the significance of this global moment through an African lens with a spotlight on Zimbabwe. As the continent faces mounting environmental challenges from deforestation to drought, pollution to land degradation, we take time to reflect, assess, and reimagine our relationship with nature. In today's episode, we unpack what World Environmental Day means for Africa, zooming in on Zimbabwe's environmental realities, and celebrate the solutions driven by communities, youth, and indigenous wisdom. I'll be joined in the studio by Tafadzwa Gwini, a climate advocate. But before that, let's take a look at stories making the headlines. We kickstart with Uganda. As Ugandan researchers are exploring sweet potatoes as key food security crop with a focus on developing orange-fleshed varieties rich with vitamin. We move on to Morocco. The country has officially launched its 2025-2027 foreign trade roadmap, aiming to create 76,000 new jobs and generate an additional $8.4 billion in export revenues. In Nigeria, the country unveiled a $90 billion investment plan to boost livestock sector as they seek to be a leading exporter of beef in the near future. We move on to Tanzania as the country's street fashion designers have hastened the art of weaving traditions into modernity as they market their culture to the global world. Still in Africa, His Excellency SADC Chairperson President Emmerson Mnangagwa has urged Africa to reject global inequalities as he says Africans must continuously reject the horse and rider relationship between the global south and north and become masters of their own destiny. Zimbabwe is making great strides towards mitigating climate change as it continues to introduce innovative initiatives to reduce pollution. Recently, His Excellency President Emmerson Mnangagwa commissioned the geopulmonal waste management sorting plant, marking another step towards reducing pollution. Let's take a look.
The responsibility of waste management does not lie with geopulmonal alone. It is the duty of every Zimbabwean. As we roll out a modern waste collection system, I urge all of us Zimbabweans to desist from illegal dumping. Let us embrace a culture of responsible waste disposal, recycling, and environmental stewardship in order to realize our goal of a clean, safe, and healthy environment.
President Mnangagwa said the plant represents critical infrastructure towards generation of between 16 to 22 megawatts of electricity.
It is important, Amazon, to note that waste is not just waste. Waste is actually a resource. With this modern sorting facility, recyclable materials can be recovered, repurposed, and reintegrated into the economy. The waste sorting plant, is a critical enabler of the waste-to-energy project, which will soon contribute between 16 up to 22 megawatts of electricity to the national grid. The plant is here to separate and repurpose the requisite waste into energy, a solution that exemplifies innovation and modernization, which my government continues to advance. The World Environment Day brings together millions of people across the globe to recommit their shared mission of protecting the environment for the present and future generations to enjoy. For Zimbabwe, This theme is particularly critical due to the country's growing plastic waste crisis, which clogs waterways, threatens wildlife and our wetlands, as well as contributes to environmental degradation countrywide. As we prepare as Zimbabwe to host COP15 on the Convention on Wetlands, Ramsar, in July this year, addressing plastic pollution is essential to safeguarding our wetlands, which are key biodiversity hotspots that support water security, tourism, and livelihoods. To date, the waste collection crisis, particularly in the capital city of Harare, has had dire consequences, ranging from environmental degradation to public health risks, among other negative impacts. We have seen outbreaks of diseases, a situation that is wholly unacceptable. Such conditions must become a thing of the past.
Well, that's all we had for you in this segment. Please don't go away as we dive into the second segment to discuss the matter of the day. That's all we had for this segment. Do join us in the second segment as we delve more on the matter of the World Environmental Day. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the second segment of Focus 54. I'm still your host, Prudence Mutimbanyoka. And in the studio now, we are joined by an environmental justice advocate, Tafadzwa Gwini. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so tell us, what is the significance of the World Environmental Day for Africa, and how does it resonate with Zimbabwe's environmental challenges?
Yeah, well, Africa and Zimbabwe are existing in the global village. And as far as the environment is concerned, the environmental challenges happening, let's say, in the US, they are affecting what's happening here in Zimbabwe or what's happening in Malawi. So indeed, we are linked to this, Environment Day in every sense of it.
Okay, so as we celebrate this day, what are the key takeaways like from yesterday, particularly relevant to Zimbabwe and the broader African region?
Yeah, well, what we are coming to appreciate is that the climate crisis or the environmental crisis that we are in right now and the pace that we are moving are not stalling. We are a bit slower, and the land degradation, water challenges, and all other deforestation, they are happening maybe triple-fold compared to our efforts. So basically, as we reflected yesterday, we actually realized that we may be in trouble.
Okay, you mentioned land degradation and erosion. So what are you doing in terms of greening the environment that we live in?
In 2020, we started the Greening Kuwadzana project with the intention of trying to, restore green spaces and particularly urban forests.
Okay.
To date, we have planted well over 6,500 trees in Kwadzana alone,
Okay.
and we have soon moved to other low-income, high-density suburbs like Heathcliff, where just yesterday we were planting fruit trees in Heathcliff as we were celebrating the World Environment Day.
Okay.
So we are more concentrated in protecting wetlands, in restoring urban forests, and in advocating the enhancement of green spaces.
Okay. So let's talk about climate change. How is it affecting rural and urban communities in Zimbabwe, particularly in agriculture and food security?
There are places like Mbire, where they focus on, those are agroecology zones. One of my friends, Diana Harawa, has been working there, and she in her report, she mentioned how there's low productivity, which is leading to cases of extreme hunger just because of the changing of weather patterns. We are also finding challenges like human-wildlife conflict because of the depletion of our water sources. So climate change is devastating, particularly rural areas. But as far as the suburbs are concerned, or urban areas, I'll speak particularly on high-density suburbs because that's where my work is concentrated. We are bearing the brunt of the climate crisis that we are in. You notice that we are living in what looks like deserts, in KwaZulu. It's pretty hot, trust me. We are suffering from the effects of the urban heat island effect. It's more like we are living in deserts, we are living in hell, to say, like, honestly, because compared to, like, I'm here in highlands, the atmosphere is totally different because we are surrounded by trees. In places like Zimbabwe, Heathcliff, it's a different story altogether. We are breathing dust, we are breathing heat, just because of the urban heat island effect, which is being exacerbated by, the climate crisis we are in.
Okay. So what can be done? What do you think can be done to resolve these problems?
Well, it all depends with from which level, because from the top level, the government has been trying to curb some of these challenges through initiatives, policies, and stuff. And we have non-governmental organizations who have also been trying to alleviate situations. Like we have like CEDA putting balls around and trying to alleviate challenges of water shortages. But we have grassroots movements, the people on the ground trying to do the planting of trees, trying to do cleanup campaigns. So I think it's best for both bodies, that's the government and the NGOs, to put their focus more on grassroots movements, because whereas maybe the government is focusing on geopomona, the ghetto youths, Ruvimbo in the ghetto, she's focusing on who's littering, trying to protect the land at grassroots. So I believe that if resources are channeled towards those grassroots movements, we can actually have meaningful changes rising from the bottom to up.
Oh, okay. So we understand you are saying it should be all hands on board in order to mitigate the effects of climate change, right?
Yeah, because the effects of climate change are not just being caused by one person. We are all contributing, whether directly or indirectly, but we are all responsible for the climate crisis that we are in. So trying to reverse the effects of climate change has to be a collective, approach, whereby it's no longer just a situation to say no, big companies or rural people or the youth, but it has to be an intergenerational movement.
Okay. It is an intergenerational movement, and it's all hands on board to solve this problem. Do join us for the third segment. We now take a short break. Welcome to Focus 54, and this is the third segment. We are now talking about the shift towards solutions and empowerment, highlighting the role of communities, indigenous knowledge, and youth in environmental restoration and resilience. Tafadzwa, tell us, what efforts are being made in Zimbabwe and Africa to restore degraded land and build resilience against drought?
Well, there's a movement. It's a continental movement. I think it's called the Africa Tree Group and the Indigenous Trees Day, which we are part of, trying to plant particularly indigenous trees to enhance biodiversity as well as to fight, land degradation and other challenges related to deforestation.
Okay. How are young people, women, and community groups contributing to the environmental restoration and protection?
Yeah, particularly young people. They are hands-on on the ground. Those are the people almost on a daily basis planting trees and or else maintaining those trees. I'll give you an example of the Greening Kwazana project, or the Greening Heathcliff project, or the Green the Ghetto, which I'm part of. For the past 5 years, almost every month, it's either we are planting or we are maintaining or we are hosting events to advocate for for environmental justice or the protection or the enhancement of urban forests. And this movement includes young people, women, girls, children, even elderly people are also participating in this. These are grassroots movements doing the best they can with little to no resources to enhance urban forestation and to reverse climate change efforts.
Okay, speaking about grassroots efforts, what is the role of traditional knowledge and indigenous practices play in protecting the environment and restoring ecosystems in Africa?
Most of our challenges as far as the environment is concerned came when we lost our indigenous knowledge systems and we adopted the Western way of resonating with the environment. Like what some of wise people say, what works with the dog does not work with the cat. So what works with the European may not work with the African. So the moment that we discard our indigenous knowledge systems and opt for, Western models of environmental preservation, that's where we lost it. For instance, we used to have sacred mountains, places where you couldn't just go with your kademo and start chopping down trees, But these days we lost all those indigenous knowledges. Now we are evading even the places that oversee the existence of mankind. So if we could go back to our indigenous knowledge systems, not saying going back to wearing nembe and stuff, but taking some of the good things that were part of our culture, that are embedded in our cultural practices, and complement the Western ideas that we have, that we are using these days to protect our environment, I think we can go further. I'll give you an example of Cyclone Idai. In as much as we now rely on Western methods, but we had our own systems of dictating whether we are going to have heavy rains or we are going to have droughts. These days we tend to ignore those systems in favor of Western systems. But remember, we do not own those Western systems. So the more we keep discarding who we are as a people, it's the very reason why we are failing to solve environmental challenges at a local level.
Okay, so you're talking about early warning systems in the traditional setup. You're saying it's very important. Okay, so how can individuals, especially the youth, take action to protect the environment and promote sustainability in their communities?
Young people have the energy to create the environment that they want because being at the ground, mostly they bear the brunt of climate change, of a degraded environment. So the best way for them to do is to realize that changing the environment is in their power to group themselves, like as what we did with the Greening Kwadzana project. It was just a bunch of unemployed young people who approached an old man who like focuses on growing trees. We approached the guy when we started like the Greening Kwadzana project with the intention of making sure that Kwadzana also looks like Borodale, looks like Greystone Park as far as tree density is concerned.
Okay.
So we advise young people particularly to group themselves in their communities, you know. If ever they may need help with that, that's where we come in. The movement is called Green the Ghetto. Any group of youth who are interested in like coming together to solve environmental challenges, we are there to assist in every way that we can. So we encourage young people to take it up to them, because in the end, it's us young people who are breathing dust, who are breathing, you know, and like hot air. Mm-hmm. So it's also in our power to change those circumstances. Gone are the days whereby we have to just cry that things are not, you know, in order. We have to put things in order ourselves as young people, as, you know, the backbone of the economy and the nation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So in this episode, we have been focusing on the World Environmental Day and what it means for Africa, zooming in on Zimbabwe's environmental realities and celebrating the solutions driven by communities, the youth, and indigenous wisdom. This is Focus 54, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
That's it for this week's episode of Focus 54. Do join us same time, same place. I'm Prudence Mutimbanyoka. Stay blessed.